Blessings and peace, beloved. Thank you for joining us once again for our Great Controversy Devotional Series, where we are using the book Christ Triumphant that deals with the issues pertaining to this great struggle between Christ and Satan. The devotional thought for today, May the 17th, is entitled Kindness Overcomes Selfishness. And the scripture reading is 1 Samuel 25 and verse 19. And she said unto her servants, Go on before me. Behold, I come after you. But she told not her husband Nabal. The Lord would have the wife render respect unto her husband, but always as it is fit in the Lord. In the character of Abigail, the wife of Nabal, we have an illustration of womanhood after the order of Christ, while her husband illustrates what a man may become who yields himself to the control of Satan. When David was a fugitive from the face of Saul, he had camped near the possessions of Nabal and had protected the flocks and the shepherds of this man from all depredation while in Carmel. In a time of need, David sent messengers to Nabal with a courteous message, asking for food for himself and his men. And Nabal answered with insolence, returning evil for good and refusing to share his abundance with his neighbors. Nabal accused David and his men falsely in order to justify himself in his selfishness, and represented David and his followers as runaway slaves. One of the young men in the employ of Nabal, fearing that evil results would follow Nabal's insolence, came and stated the case to Nabal's wife, knowing that she had a different spirit from her husband and was a woman of great discretion. He set forth the true character of Nabal as he presented the difficulties to her, saying, Now therefore know and consider what thou wilt do. For evil is determined against our master and against all his household, for he is such a son of Belial that a man cannot speak to him. So this servant recognized that in this instance, because this man was just and right in protecting us, and he deserved, he worked for this. This was not even a reward. This was due wages. This was due payment, because they protected, he filled a need that the master did not fill. And because he filled a need that the master did not fill, and that was of the absolute necessity, the master should have been willing to pay these men food for his personal oversight. So now the servant recognizes, you know what, this man protected us. Without this man, we would have died. And so the same hand that was mighty to keep us alive can be the very same hand that will be mighty to keep our death, especially because of the manner in which he was dismissed. David and his men were dismissed insolently by Nabal. So now, instead of accepting his death, he moves in his situation and appeals to a higher power, appeals to the virtue of his wife. He did not settle down and say, oh, we are going to die. He said, no, let's avert this threatened danger by making known this unknown situation to somebody who can do something about it. Abigail, this is a situation, this is a scenario, thus and thus did it go, thus and thus did it went, and thus it can be prevented. Abigail saw that something must be done to avert the result of Nabal's fault, and that she must take the responsibility of acting immediately without the counsel of her husband. She didn't need to consult her husband. You know what? We just need to do what's right. Often we delay doing what's right to consult those who don't want to do what's right. You just do what's right. Come on, beloved. You know he or she is not going to do what's right. You know they are not about it. You do what's right. And don't be afraid of what they are going to say. Do what is right and not allow the right to be strangled by the fear of what somebody else is going to say. You do what's right. Abigail saw that something must be done to avert the result of Nabal's fault, and that she must take the responsibility of acting immediately without the counsel of her husband. She knew that it would be useless to speak to him, and so structurally she is now disobeying the request of her husband to do what's right. She knew that it would be useless to speak to him, for he would receive her proposition only with abuse and contempt. He would remind her that he was the Lord of his household. I am the man in this house. That she was his wife and therefore in subjection to him and must do as he should dictate. She gathered together such stores as she thought best to conciliate the wrath of David, for she knew he was determined to avenge himself for the insult he had received. So don't think that God is there maintaining structures of oppression. He never has, and never will maintain a structure of oppression under the guise of women must be subject to men, but men must nurture. As a matter of fact, wife must be subject to her husband. He doesn't believe that women must be subject to men, period. Wives must be subject to your husband because the husband is committed to nurturing the wife. So you must be subject to the person that is committed to nurturing you and loving you. Subject to love. Subject to love. Not a system of oppression. Because regardless whether it's between a husband or wife, we are always subject to somebody. How many employees are subject to their employer, subject to their corporation? And you got to do what they say to the detriment of your family. God does not. So the hypocrisy in the world is great. I am subject to my corporation to do things to the detriment of my family life. If you want this position, you have to deny yourself the privilege of spending time with your family on a regular basis. You got to come to work, Pharaoh. So there's a lot of hypocritical conversations about structures of oppression. Anyhow, so God did not maintain a structure of oppression. Abigail did the right thing for doing the right thing's sake without consulting her husband. Abigail's course in this matter was one that God approved, and the circumstance revealed in her a noble spirit and character. Abigail met David with respect, showing him honor and deference, and pleaded her cause eloquently and successfully. While not excusing her husband's insolence, she still pleaded for his life. She also revealed the fact that she was not only a discreet woman, but a godly woman. Have mercy upon the idiot, please. He was an idiot. He was a fool. But have mercy upon him. He's foolish. She also revealed the fact that she was not only a discreet woman, but a godly woman acquainted with the works and ways of God in David. So she recognized. She did not excuse her husband's sin. She identified it and asked for grace. That's how we do it. Don't excuse the sin of others. There's a lot of evil that is done. Don't excuse people's sin. Then that's a tragedy. That's a travesty even more. Don't excuse his sin. Identify, yes, that was wrong. They did it. What they did was wrong. That was evil. It was evil. We do evil as God's people. Let's not excuse it. Identify it. Ask for mercy. But don't try to insult people's intelligence, God's intelligence, by excusing the evil. No. Don't excuse the evil. But act like Abigail and cause kindness to overcome selfishness. That's what Abigail did. Kindness. Her kindness overcame the selfishness of her husband Nabal, and her kindness caused the result of his selfishness to be nullified. There's a lesson. Kill them with kindness today, beloved. This is how we live the overcomer's life. Blessings and peace.